Hi guys, and welcome to my first live stream. For those who don't know me, I'm a beauty photographer from Liverpool, and this is a selection of my work. As you can see, I'm mostly beauty, but I do shoot e-com, but I can see my career path going down the beauty route. So today I'm going to be retouching this image from earlier on this year. So I've already copied over my Luma mask from a different image that I've already retouched of this set. As you can see, if I just put the mask on, what is it affecting is just the skin and just missing out a bit of the highlights. That just gives me a bit of definition back into the skin. So if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat. I have got my eye on it. So basically, the colour tones. So hi Jude, what you're touching on there, it's basically my white balance really. So if we go, my raw editor of choice is Capture One, by the way. Is I feel, especially with Nikon, it gives me the best results in colour and sharpness. Because I think with Lightroom, for me, what am I doing with that Luma mask is, if you can just see, there's the mask, and then it's just giving a little bit of contrast and definition back in to the face without affecting any of the hair. So all I need to do really is around this area, as if you can see it on the stream, I'm not so sure, is I've got a bit of a yellow cast in her skin which doesn't quite flow, and it's mainly around the mouth and the nose area. So we can just balance that out with a simple trick. And this is why I prefer Capture One, is because I can just make an adjustment. I'm going to call this skin, and all I need to do now is make a mask. I press B for my brush, resize it. I'm just going to check. Right. So I'm just going to make an outline around the model. Bear in mind, I am going to be missing out the lips because I don't want to affect the lips, and mainly the eyeshadow as well, because it's more or less in the same tonal range as his skin. So if I do some adjustments to the skin, it's going to change the eyeshadow as well. So I'm just going to come around. This is just a rough, and then I'm just going to come over to my layer and fill mask. I've just gone over the eye, so I'm just going to press E for the raise and just erase that away. Right, so no, I just add contrast onto my Luma mask, which is in the curve, is just a little bit of an S curve. As you can see, that just, it brings back more definition in around her neck and her jawline mainly, and her eyes. And the skin, I'm just going to clean up around her chin and just go over the lips, so just in case I change the colour on those lips. I said I've just moved the mask. So let's just adjust that. See, I am using a Wacom Pro Interest Pro Medium, and I feel it's so much easier to control what I'm doing, especially with masks. See, I can just come in, go around that edge of the neck and the chin. Right, and the next thing I'm going to do with the skin on this layer is I'm going to come to my color tab, come down to color editor. Now the skin tone, this is where we even out like this yellow in her skin is as well. I've got a bit of red in her neck and just on the edge of her neck there that I just want to take away. See, it doesn't have to be this elaborate action or tool that we need to do in Photoshop. This is the beauty of Capture One, is I can just come in and select on the skin tone that I like the most, and it's mainly around the forehead where the least product is. And I must touch on as well, to get good beauty images and this level of clarity basically and shine, is you need a good makeup artist. I can't stress that enough. So all I've done now is I'm on my skin tone tab and I have selected the skin tone that from the forehead, and I'm just going to move the smoothness up. And here, the uniformity, this is where it's going to get rid of this yellow in her skin and just blend it in nicely. So what I like to do generally is round about 30, sometimes a tiny bit over, but not all the way. So around there looks good to me. If we just go back to the tabs, to the layer, let me see if you can see that on the stream, is I just get rid of that yellow without affecting any of the lips or the eyes. So the next thing I do like to do in Capture One is the eyes. I do like to make them pop, so I'm going to make a new layer, call that eyes, and then I'm just going to draw a mask inside the eye. I'm just going to miss out the pupil. And just come over to the other eye. Just going to come out a little bit, turn the mask off. And then I'm just going to come over to my curves layer. And I'm just going to brighten them up a little bit. To bring in my blacks just to give that a little bit of punch. And mainly, that's all I do in the raw stages with the eyes. I do like to make them pop a tiny bit further in Photoshop, but I'm going to show you that later on. And now I'm just going to come over to my details on the background, and you can see that I do have sharpening off, is mainly because I have shot this at a high f-stop at f16 with my 150mm, and it's tack sharp, so I don't really need sharpening. But I can see that the eyelashes are a tad bit soft, but we can sort that in Photoshop at a later stage near the end. So now all I'm going to do now, because I feel like that is a good starting point to take it into Photoshop, is I've actually first, there's another thing, because we've got natural blush on her cheeks. I'm just going to go back to my skin layer. I'm going to press E for eraser and just bring my opacity down. Opacity even. English is not good with me tonight. And then I'm just going to adjust my brush and then just erase just on her cheek. And I'm just going to come in and fix just around her eye. So before I jump out of Capture One, is there anything that you want me to explain or show you while I just neaten up these edges? I used the Sigma 150mm. Currently that's one of my favourite lenses, mainly for beauty, just so I don't have to be so close to the model, as I can come away a little bit. And I noticed that there's no distortion when I get up close to the model, especially with the 105mm Sigma. Is I found that I got a little bit of distortion when I was a certain distance of the model. Right, so I'm just going to check. See, I'm happy with that. See, my lights in the studio they go off with the color temperature is 5400 Kelvin, and sometimes skin tones won't look good at 55 Kelvin. Or I should rephrase, not every skin tone is 5500 Kelvin, so I do like to adjust that to eye. I do use a grey card, but sometimes I prefer doing it by eye. So now the next step is I'm going to take this into Photoshop, and I'm just going to right click on the image just here, and I'm going to go to edit with Adobe Photoshop, and then I'm going to come to this tab. I'm just going to have it in TIFF 16-bit uncompressed Adobe RGB 300 resolution, 300 pixels per inch. That's a must if you're going to be printing. And then I'm going to open, and it's just going to open up in Photoshop. Right, so the first thing that I like to do is I just like to go around the image and just see what I'm actually going to do first. I'm just going to make a new layer here so I can just show you what I'm looking at. Just change that to green. Yeah, green. Not really for any color in in Capture One. Is I do the basics in Capture One, and then I come over to Photoshop, and I apply my color grading, either with the color balance, the selective color, or currently one of my favorite tools at the minute is infinite color. It just takes that stress away of color grading and finding the color that you want for your photo. No, I didn't take it with an 85mm. I took it with a 150. So now I am just gonna just zoom in around the image and just look on what I do need to take out. So likes of this little hair that looks like it's from the makeup brush, and I can just see little things here, and this little spot, these little hairs, and here as well, and just them little dots and a bit of glitter from a previous look. It is impossible to, once you have done a look in during the shoot it is impossible to get glitter off the face, so just bear in mind on with that. Mainly leave it to the last. I'm just going to see these. And I can just see little hairs on the nose. So the next step I like to do is go to layer, new, and then layer. And I'm just going to rename this skin cleanup. And then I'm going to come over to my healing brush tool. And then I am just going to start cleaning up the skin. I'm going to press Alt and select an area around the problem area. So like I said, this little bit of glitter, I'm just going to select here and I'm just going to erase it away. Ed, thank you for that question. Yes, a good makeup artist is a must. And how would you recommend finding one? It's just networking on Instagram. Just scout their work, and if you find that you really like their style, just message them. That's basically how I got started. Is I found a makeup artist. Back then it was Purple Port. I found a makeup artist on Purple Port, and we just started collaborating every other weekend. And then I've gone from there. I've built up a portfolio, and then eventually makeup artists will start reaching out to you. But I still reach out to makeup artists now that I feel that it's going to benefit me in my portfolio. And what do I expect TFP when working with them on an unpaid project? So I test a lot. I mean, ideally I like to test at least twice a week, just because I'm refreshing my portfolio all the time, and I'm refreshing my skill set as well, because I'm always learning when I'm shooting. If we're going to collaborate on a magazine submission, what I expect is good quality results. It must just 1 second. Yeah, so what I expect on unpaid projects, if I am going to be submitting to a magazine, is we've got to treat it like I'm getting paid for a campaign. So we have to have a good mood board, a good model, and especially a good makeup artist. I've already touched on that. Sorry about that, guys. Back to that question. I know I'm taking my time answering it. Is Ed asks, sorry I wasn't clear on my question. No, it's okay. I just couldn't quite explain on what I really meant. Do you pay the makeup artist when you're not getting paid? Magazine submissions and testing. Testing, no. Magazine submissions, no. Because it's a collaborate shoot. So I'm collaborating with the makeup artist, the model, and I'm just gonna clean up. I'm gonna try and answer that, as I'm having a little bit of trouble answering that. So basically, yes, Katie, that's right. As a makeup artist, she gets the images. I get the images. The model gets the images, and we also get a printed version. At the end of the day, we get our images in a magazine, in the public eye, or on the internet in front of eyes. And it's just, I like to think of it as a team effort. It's not just me, it's not just the makeup artist, not just the model. We come as a team, and we bring our talents and our creative minds into that. So thank you, Katie, for that. It was a brain switched off there. So what my brush settings? So my brush settings for the cleaning is, I've got it, the size will depend on the area. I've got hardness set at 0. Some do like it at 100%, but for me, I think 0 does, it blends in nicely, especially around the nose area. Is roughly, with this image, because I have edited this set before, is I'd like to take around about 20 to 30 minutes on skin like this. I don't want to over edit and make it look too polished, because I think the industry now is going away from looking over retouched and over polished. Like, now skin needs to look like skin, basically. So my job now is just to make this image look nice. It is nice already, but I mean, I'm just getting little imperfections away, but making it look like it hasn't been retouched. So like I here, I'm just still selecting around that area. So I will be jumping from areas to areas, depends on what catches my eye at the time. So I probably will be back over here. See, so now I can just notice a little bit of product build-up on the nose. We can just bring this down slightly, but I wouldn't completely get rid of it. See, I can just see around this area a bit of a spot, a bit redness. I'm just going to get rid of this. Don't you use frequency separation to clean the skin? No, I stay away from that for skin. I like to use a blank layer with the healing brush tool. I just find it gives me the best results for me. So I'm just going to carry on just removing these little hairs. I am am still selecting around the problem area. And another thing about frequency separation, it has its place and it has its time, but I feel now it's being overused. See, I stay away from it, especially with beauty, because we want it to look as natural as possible. I know you can use the texture layer, but especially if you've got like a red spot here, like around here, it's only going to remove the texture and it's going to keep the redness. With this blank layer, if I just show you, we're just going to get rid of it, just that one. And then if I do remove something that I do not like, or I want to bring back a little bit, I just press E and just erase it, and you can see it just comes back. So if you've got any more questions, just pop them down in the chat. I am keeping an eye on it, and I'll try and answer them as clearly and as good as possible. I do like to keep my workflow quite simple. So I'm just going to zoom out. I am only doing tiny little bits at a time, as I don't want to, if I just select a big area, I don't want to come in and destroy the texture basically in that area. So I'm just going to go back on that. And as well with peach fuzz, I know I got a lot of questions on Instagram about peach fuzz. You don't have to remove it. See, likes of this, I won't remove these. I'll remove some, like the most distracting ones here, but I am still doing that with my healing brush tool. I'll still select around an area that's clean and just come in and just brush away the size of the hair. Just come in. And there's another way on how to do that, but I'll show you that on a different time. But today I'm just gonna use my healing brush tool. Just come in. And you can see that makes a big difference in that area. See, this process does take a little bit of time, so don't rush on removing little fine hairs like this, because we need to keep the texture looking as believable as possible. So I'll most likely come back to that area later. And with this area, just here on her chin, I can just see a little bit of red on where that spot has been. Is we can deal with that very easily with another blank layer. I will show you that just in a sec. Just let me finish cleaning up her skin. Omar asks, please do a video on beauty lighting setups like the setup of this photo. Hopefully soon I will be doing something like that. I can explain my lighting setup for this image. Is I had, if you can look in it, see in their eyes, I had my white molar demi with an opal diffusion glass on it, and left of the camera I had a 90 centimeter deep para with a focus rod, and that was pushed in halfway, and that was half the power of my main light. With the fill light, I've got a strip bank with a grid on, just to fill in the shadow areas, mainly around the neck and the shoulder. I'm just going to clean up these little fine hairs on her, just above her lip. So as you do go on retouching, you will just become quicker and quicker with every image that you edit. See, I've been retouching since 2012. I've gone through all the techniques, especially frequency separation. I've used the mixer brush. I feel with the mixer brush is you're just pushing the tones and blending the tones together, and then it gives you this distinctive look. And basically that doesn't print well. I've printed images before for my portfolio that I've edited with frequency separation and used the mixer brush, and I just didn't like the outcome as compared to the people that I follow, that I am inspired by. So I had to come away, and I've learned from the people that I do look up to in this industry. I've watched videos, I've bought courses, and then I've gone away and I've practiced those techniques, and then I've developed my own way of working. My workflow is pretty straightforward and simple. I just like to clean the skin up, and then I will go in and dodge and burn. So if you are in the stream and you want to know anything on either the lighting, what camera I've used, what lenses I've used especially for this shoot, just ask away. It doesn't mainly have to be about retouching, could be about shooting and where I find inspiration. So you'll notice that I am not getting rid of these little fine hairs on the face, as personally I like them in my images, as it's just part of the model's features. What is your go-to light modifier for beauty? My go-to is a Mola Demi, a white, with the opal dish. I've been shooting that now with for 3 years, I think. It just gives me a perfect, more or less softish light, but with a bit of micro contrast. And another thing that I want to touch on as well is, especially if this is for Instagram, Facebook, that nobody is going to see your images 100%. They're always going to be looking at them from around that to this size, so they won't be seeing any of these little hairs here, and so that can save you a ton of time as well. But for printing and magazine, maybe billboard size, I would take the time and just remove these, but that would take quite a bit of time. So whereabouts is everyone from in the stream? That's right here in the UK now. It's around about 11 o'clock. I think it is. Well, nearly 11:45. See, I don't really know how I feel about this here, so I might just come back to it. For the eyes as well, I've been asked that. See, on this layer, I'm just going to use it. Same as I do with the skin, is I'm just going to select next to it and just gently brush. Photoshop should just take care of it. If not, and it's really tricky, we can use the clone stamp tool on lighten, is on the flow around about 4 to 6. I prefer that, and then I'm just going to select next to it and brush. You can just see that just goes away slightly. As I will leave some of the faint in the eye just to add a little bit of realism to the image, just so it doesn't look totally fake. Just messed up there a little bit, just gonna erase that. See that this area is a good chance to use the clone stamp tool. I'm just going to select that and just slowly take that away. As you can see, makes a massive difference. See, the eyes can be tricky when you're removing these little red veins, so just take your time. And if you do make a mistake, like with this blank layer here, we can just press E for the razor and just bring back the area that we need. So like Sophia, but I feel that is good enough. I'm just going to speed up the healing process here, just so we can get onto the good stuff. So Katie asks that I know you shoot portfolio boosters for makeup artists. What level of direction do you give for them to make sure you're not spending hours editing poor makeup, or are you selective with who you'll shoot? It honestly depends. I don't shoot portfolio boosters a lot. I only do it every now and then, and I do open only 5 slots for a time period that I have available. But I do give pointers on retouching point of views. Like if I feel the makeup is too heavy, I will show them during the shoot. Like in capture one, I will turn it black and white, and so more or less so I will go in and turn it black and white, and then bring the curves down, and then I will show the makeup artist the patchiness. So like sort of here we have a patch just here, and if that's not blended in correctly, that'll be really patchy, as well as the forehead. But you can see on this image that we haven't used a lot of product, so it looks natural. And I will ask a makeup artist not to use a lot of foundation, mainly because it does at this crop, you will notice the foundation on the skin, especially like around this area, that can be really problematic, especially if the model does have dry skin. I feel like I'm nearly done with this phase of retouching. This may be because right, so if I have missed things, I can come back to it in this layer. Next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my dodge and burning process. Now, what I like to do is I like to stamp my layers. So I have, if you can see, I have everything on this layer. Now I go to filter, blur, and I blur it by either between 4 and 8. With this one, I'm just gonna go 5. What this does now is this just distracts, well, it takes the distraction away from me of the texture. So now all we're gonna do is we're gonna blend in the transitions of the skin. So what I'm going to do now with my dodge and burn is I'm going to come up here to my curves. I do have actions, but I'm going to show you how dodge and burn works with curves. Is I'm going to get the center of my curve. I'm just going to pull it up slightly. Then I'm going to press Control and I to invert that. Rename that to high. Then I'm going to come over to the curves again. This time I'm going to grab the middle and bring it down slowly to just around there. Then the same, Control I, invert. Actually, I'm going to call that burn and rename that dodge. And then I'm just going to press Shift, select them, Control G for a group, rename that to D and B. Then next thing, I just come to dodge. I'm going to grab a brush. It's a soft brush, so hardness 0, and the size is going to change. Right, and I'm just going to check on where I do think that needs dodging, but first I will come to black and white, and then I'm going to make a curve just so I can see these transitions a little bit better, and just make an S curve. Just bring that down even further. And a quick tip is I like to edit zoomed out. So I'm just going to rename this group check. See, all we do, it's just black and white, and it just reveals like the dark lines and just where the patchiness is in the skin that we can blend. So I'm just going to come to my dodge, soft brush, 1 to 2% flow, but for this I'm just going to go 2% on white. Got my mask selected. I'm just going to bring my brush size up. I'm just going to start brushing in. And roughly this stage can take anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour, depending on the condition of the skin and makeup. This is why I do prefer to shoot with minimal, bloody hell, I can't speak tonight, with less product, because of the problems it causes in the transitions. So likes of round this lip, I'm just gonna dodge in. With this method of retouching, is we are keeping all the texture, all the natural texture. We are not blending any tones together. All we are affecting is the highs and the lows. So if I just turn this on and off, you can just see that I have smoothed out this area. can do with a little bit of work. Just blend this in a little bit more. As well with this technique as well is it keeps your file size considerably low compared to if you're going to be using frequency separation with the mixer brush, or you're going to be painting on the low layer. Once you stamp that, that's just going to add on to the file size. So at the minute I'm currently at 521 megabytes. I'm just going to do the lips as well. So if you're new to the stream, you've just clicked on and started watching, feel free to add any questions and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. But I must warn you, English is not treating me well tonight. See, in this area I can just see a shadow that's a little bit hard. I'm just going to soften that up. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep the shape of her face, especially with her cheekbones. So you can see if I start dodging this area too much, is I'm going to lose this definition, and I'm going to lose the shape as well. So what we can do is we can come into the burn and just come and blend little bits in just here, and then afterwards we can just emphasize that a little bit more. How many hours do you spend to edit a picture like this one? Good skin like this roughly takes me around about 20 to 30 minutes. If the skin does have a lot of problem areas, it's going to take anywhere between an hour and two. And the jawline here is, I just feel like this shadow is a little bit too sharp for me, so I'm just going to dodge the edge of the shadow. just to blend that in nicely. As you can see, a big difference in such a small amount of time. So if I just turn them off, you can see how natural that's starting to look. As well, don't forget the ear. If you've got the ear in frame, always dodge and burn, as same as the face and the neck. You just want the image to flow. So if you've got a patchy ear, that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And just to make it a little bit easier around this area, I'm going to press R and I'm going to rotate my canvas just so I can easily brush. Will you save this video to your channel? I've got to leave. Thanks for doing this. No problem, Katie. And yes, I will save it, even though it is my first and I've messed up a few times. But yeah, I'll make this available to watch. See, now I'm just going to continue on dodging little areas that I've spotted. Because we don't need to go overboard, especially on tiny little areas like this. We can just zoom out and get the ones that catch our eyes. Because don't forget, 9 times out of 10 people won't be seeing these at 100%. So with the eye on the blush, the eyeshadow, and a little bit of the eye bag. Just gonna add a little bit of highlight just on her eye, just to make that stand out a little bit. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of definition back into this cheekbone. As you can see, I've just lost it a tiny bit. So what I'll do is I'll just come over to my burn with a fairly big brush. I'm just going to burn and brush that back in, just so it looks nice and natural. So once I feel like I'm happy with the face, then I'll move down towards the neck area. You see, we have a few areas that we can work on. is I'll just get that in a sec. Just finish these little bits up. The nose as well can be tricky because we do have shadow then highlight then a shadow then highlight. Is we just want to blend them in just so it seems like it's seamless. So that was a mouthful. Oh, this method of dodge and burning with the curve layers is powerful. It may not seem it because it's such a simple action, but the quality that you produce with this, it can really set your work onto a different level. Once you learn how to dodge and burn, is your images will then start to look natural and polished at the same time. So if we just reset that, come back, and you can just see a difference. Just a little bit of dodge and burning makes. I'm just going to come in and fix this area. Now the neck area, as you can see, we have a line here, which is, it's bright and it's dark at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the canvas. I'm just going to dodge just along this line and then just under it where we can see these patchy parts. I'm just gonna come back to my curves and just make it a little bit stronger just so I can see it a little bit more. Then I can just see a little bit of a bright area just where that line was, and then I'm just going to burn just to blend that in a little bit more and just around here. Now if I just rotate, and to rotate you press R on your keyboard, but I've got a gaming pad, so I've got my macros set, so it's just I don't need to take my fingers away from where I'm retouching and just stretch over to my keyboard, because I prefer my Wacom in the center of the desk. I always have. I'm just going to carry on with the neck. And a quick tip as well, when shooting beauty, always make sure the makeup artist applies product on the neck just to colour balance the neck with the face. Because we can always... It's easier to fix during the shoot than it is in post. Or something that could take 30 seconds could take you 30 minutes in post to fix. So I'm nearly done with that area now. So feel free to add any more questions and I'll go over them, because I am nearly done now with this stage. I'm still keeping it nice and natural. I'm not trying to over do it. I'm not pushing the image as far as I could, but I feel this image doesn't need it because she already has good skin with good makeup. Right, so with that, you can see I've just got rid of this line on her neck, and that's just with dodging and burning. See, now I can go in and just fix this area with my dodge. I'm going to rotate the canvas. Another thing as well, dodge and burning does take its time, but in the end it is worth it because of the results it produces. It's non-destructive, because if you need to go back, if a client gives you feedback and you need to go back on the image, you can always come in and erase the mask. So like sort of for this instance, if the client doesn't like this area being too bright, or if you've made a mistake, we can just come back and erase it and redo it. It wouldn't be a retouching video if I was trying to brush with a black brush. Ted Retouching, hey, how are you? So I feel like the jawline can just be a little bit softer. And just around the nose can be a little bit. I'm just going to brighten the lips up. And just around the chin. I'm good, I'm good. So I'm just going to lighten just below the brow a little bit. Right, so I'm just going to check on my you can see that's a massive difference, but we keep it nice and natural. It doesn't look overdone. So the next thing that I'm going to do is just going to delete these checks. I'm just going to look for any oversaturated areas or colours that just don't blend in. See, likes of this area here is now I'm going to go and make a new layer and bring down my mode to colour. I'm going to get a soft brush and I'm going to come down with the brush size, and then I'm going to press Alt and I'm going to select a colour next to it. So I have my colour range set to 2x2, I think it is. And I'm just going to select colours from around that area just so it blends in nicely and it just takes away that oversaturation of what that spot was. You can see. And I'm just going to jump over back to my dodge and burn, and I'm just going to dodge this area a little bit more, as well as the nose. If you can see, we've got a tiny bit of redness in the nose. And I'm just going to come over, rename that color correction, and I'm just going to come over again and select an area around it just to take that a little bit of redness away from that area and just around here. I feel like it's a little bit yellow with the foundation. I've got a little bit of redness here as well, so I can come in and just select around it and then just brush. You might not be able to just see that from there on the stream. So the next thing that I do like to do is now my color correction, my color grading, sorry. It's pretty simple. I prefer, there's various ways of how to do this, but I prefer to use the color balance tool. Now I'm going to go to the midtones. Now I like this image warm, so I'm just going to push the yellows and the reds just over, just slightly. And then the highlights, I'm just going to take out the red tiny bit. That looks nice to me. So that's all I'm going to do with that for the colour. And it's pretty straightforward. But I do have an action that I have saved from Infinite Colour Palette. I can't recommend this enough. It's just simply one click. Is I prefer light and then create, and it just gives you pretty decent results, to be honest. I even like that on that image. So with that, I just drop that down to around about 30%, and just gives that a nice kick. And then you could combine like your color balance with that, and that just gives that a nice bit of contrast and a punch. Then the next thing I'm going to do now for the eyes to make them pop even more is I'm going to stamp all my layers together, and then I'm going to come over to other and high pass. With the high pass now, it needs to be over 40. You can see here now is we start getting this weird like colour shift in the eyes, and I'm just going to press OK, come down to my blender mode, and I'm going to select soft light. Then I'm going to mask that, and then Control I to invert. Come over to my brush 100%, and I'm just going to brush that in just on her iris. And all that does is it just brings out the colour and the details in her eyes, as you can see. Still a natural way and a natural look, and a very easy way on how to make the eyes pop. I'm just going to drop that down to 50%. See, I feel now that this image can use a little bit more contrast, so I'm going to come back to my adjustments. I'm going to go to black and white, then to my blender mode and soft light, and then just drop it down to below 10. So 10. You can see that just adds a little bit of contrast in the shadow areas. And then I'm going to dodge and burn again, but this time to bring out details and features in her face. So same again as dodge, bring the curve up, invert, and because we are bringing out the shadows and the highlight details on the model's face, is I'm going to switch the blender mode to luminosity just so it doesn't affect any of the color. So group, I'm going to call that contour. So next I'm going to go to dodge with my brush. I'm just going to select below, usually I like below 5. For this I'm going to go 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring things out a little bit more that I feel I can pop. So around the eye, on the eyelid here, this little highlight, is I'm just going to dodge this and bring that back in the eye a little bit. And then just below the eyebrow, the nose, and the highlight on her lip as well, just to make them pop a little bit more, her teeth. And as well on her chin and around her jaw where the light would come around, just make that a little bit lighter, just so it pops this cheekbone out a little bit more. And then just bring on the hair. And then burn is the opposite, so I'm going to go in with the shadow, so like here, just under their nose and around their nose, especially eyebrows as well, just darken them just so they stand out a little bit more. And the eyelashes. And then what you do with the eyes as well when you're doing with the eyelashes is you're creating that shape, so you're making the eyes look more or less 3D. And then the lips, just dodge the out side of her lips just to give them a little bit more shape and definition. And then I'm just going to move on to a cheekbone, just give this a little bit more. Nice soft brush, just gently. It's on the outside. And then the jawline, just nice and soft and around. And then I'm just going to drop this down a little bit because I feel like I've done a little bit too much. There we go. Then I'm just going to come back and visit this area because I can notice a little bit of saturation. So I'm just going to come back to the colour correction. Turn off. Let's group them. Colour. Or CG for colour grade. I'm just going to take that redness away. So select an ear and just paint. If you can see that, see, I have just taken that red, that oversaturated area down there and just matched that in a little bit better. Now, for sharpening that I like to do is I like to do selective sharpening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp all my layers. Then I'm going to come over to my filters, other, high pass. Now it's usually between 1 and 3 for this, is we don't want to affect the colour, we just want to affect the texture. So 2 is good, and then I'm just going to drop down my blender mode to soft light. See if you can see that on the stream, you can see it just affects the eyelashes a tiny bit, and that's good enough. So what I'm going to do is with that, I'm going to mask that, invert, and then I'm going to have my brush at 100, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and just paint in the eyelashes just to make them look a little bit sharper. just on the eye as well, just to give that a little bit of definition. See, now with this, I'm just going to turn all these off and just go back in and just fix these eyes because I forgot. So very easy fix. Just take some more of these away as well. Oh. Right, so let's turn everything back on. Right, so the next thing I think I could do is, now looking at it, I feel like the image is a tiny bit flat and it needs a little bit more contrast. So I'm gonna grab this tool here and I'm just gonna select like this area and drag, and then I'm gonna this area and make an S curve just slightly, and it just gives that, it just brings that contrast back a little bit, but I am going to drop that below 50%. And there we go. The next thing now I need to do is layer, new layer, and the mode is I'm going to select soft light, and then I'm going to select this option, fill with soft light, neutral color 50% grey, because we're going to add a noise just to blend the colors in nicely, and it just gives that film type look. So now I'm going to go to filter, noise, add noise, and it's usually around 1 to 4% with uniform and monochromatic. You can, so that's it. See, with this image I didn't really want to go overboard and retouch it too much because she has good skin anyway, and really good makeup, so it didn't need too much treatment. So we've gone from that to this, just using what we have at our disposal in the adjustments. So I think I am done. So if you have any more questions now before I end this live stream, just ask away and I'll try and get to them. If not, thank you very much for tuning into my first live stream. I know I messed up a few times, but hey, it's the middle of the night now and I've tried my best and I hope you enjoyed it.